Hi, everybody. My name is Jennifer Mulholland. This is Jeff Shuck. We are the co-leaders of Plenty. We wanted to give some specific advice for the conscious leaders out there in marketing, in social impact, in fundraising, and in the nonprofit event space. We're getting a lot of questions about what to do in terms of canceling my event or creating things virtually, postponing, stopping it all together. So we wanted to share some thoughts with you.
Yeah, so there's four specific questions we're going to cover here. Our texts, our emails, our phones are lighting up at this really tumultuous time. Should you cancel your campaign or event? Should you make it virtual? Should you keep fundraising in the meantime or just go dark altogether? And what is our revenue guidance in terms of altering revenue projections? So for the first one, should you cancel your campaign or event? There's a lot of people already ahead of the curve on this, and the situation is changing daily. I just found out my own kids don't have school until May 1st. You're probably watching the projections of infections. Our current guidance is if it is before May 15th, yes, you should go ahead and cancel. Any longer, you kind of just risk sounding really tone deaf to what's going on. We're kind of holding and waiting to see until maybe the beginning of April to see if things extend, and would just tell you this advice is changing daily, just like the situation is changing by the hour.
The second question we're getting a lot of is, should I make a virtual event in its place of the in-person event? We want to remind you that you need a virtual community, not necessarily a virtual event. And again, shifting the focus from event production to what will it take to build a cohesive, a collective community is far more important right now. As a reminder, we all know this, but it is so easy to forget when we have events and conferences and convenings that communities are really made up of people, and people need to be seen, they need to be heard, they need to be spoken to, and we have an opportunity to cultivate the people in our audiences, our constituents, our donors, human to human. So we really suggest that you shift from a mindset of tactical production to human connection. What does your audience need? What do you need? And how do you share literally passion to passion, care to care to those people that make up your community?
We just recorded a separate resource about this issue that's a lot longer and worth taking a look at. And when we have the URL for that, we'll pop that on the screen because this is kind of a deep issue. But just want to underscore what Jen said, and I love this point. You know, we have a lot of friends in the industry. We have a lot of friends in the software and marketing community, and there's a lot of messages going out to our clients right now saying, hey, switch over to a virtual event. And that's great. But the tactic isn't enough, right? It's not just about a tool. It's not, you don't just have this thing that people come to. The people actually start first. So you can do a lot to care for and cultivate those people, and would refer you to that other video. And I think, Jen, this is something we're going to be talking about quite extensively in the next couple of months.
Absolutely.
So we had a question. Our third question is a trickier one. This has come up a couple times directly over the last, even overnight. What do you do about just fundraising in general? If you're a nonprofit and you have a campaign already running, is it tone deaf to keep it going? You obviously need to have revenue coming in, but the whole world is distracted somewhere else. And we don't have as clear as advice on this. So want you to take all of this with kind of a big chunk of salt, but here's a few things that we would ask you to think about, and that we're here to maybe help you think through. This health crisis has morphed into a real economic crisis, obviously, and that's going to have a huge impact on charitable giving. Not sure how much of the impact yet. We'll get to that in a second, but we're seeing people start to pivot their message to kind of a, hey, don't forget about our issue. Our cause is still here. And our 2 cents is it's a little bit early to be doing that. Our other 2 cents is a lot of groups are already going to pivot to that message of like, don't forget about us. Don't forget about the environment. Don't forget about cancer. Don't forget about abandoned pets. And it's true. Don't forget about any of that. But it might not be the best message, and it's definitely not going to be the most unique message. So slowing down to think about messaging is really important. And before we get to the rest of the points, I want to stop on that and say, Jen, do you want to add anything about just authentic messaging, or do you want to add anything to that point?
Yeah, just in terms of not only being authentic and real, but timely, I think people's attention are not on fundraising right now. They're not on the cause other than COVID-19, how to survive it, how to deal with it. And in the States, we haven't seen it really hit yet. Some states are experiencing it faster than others, like New York and Washington. But honestly, there's a lot of states that we are still on the beginning of this incredible spike. And so people's attention are there. And so it just encourages us to be really mindful of the messages that we're sending. And if they're off tone at all, and you can see that in, if you watch the news, the commercials that are still rolling that feel really out of touch right now. So pausing, giving your space, your organization, your strategy time to see what is going to unfold in the next 30 days is going to be absolutely essential for you to pivot your messaging, your ask, how you convene your community virtually in the coming weeks and months.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is like, here's an analogy for you. Your house is on fire, God forbid. You run outside with your family. You call the fire department. The fire department shows up, and the fire chief walks off the fire truck and says, "Are you eating your green vegetables? And have you checked your blood pressure?" And you're going to be like, "Whoa, just put out the fire first." So, like, trying to be patient, which is hard. Your cause is really important. But it might not be the thing that people are thinking about. Now, here's the other thing. Ad costs were already high because of the election. And so there was already crowded anyway. We know that groups, and we've talked to groups in the last day, that really don't have a choice. The ad buy is already in place. They don't have money to retool the creative. So they're just letting it run. We get that, but would say for everybody else, like, make decisions week to week. If you can pause for a little bit, you're going to probably be glad that you have some dry powder in the reserve later. And we know what that sounds like, and we never want to say stop acquiring. We absolutely know how the revenue models, particularly of our nonprofit clients, work. We just want you to think about being smart and talking from where your constituents are coming from first.
And as we slow down to kind of give ourselves some breathing room to make some strategic decisions and pivot our messaging and pivot how we are going to serve our community, it will likely breed innovation, new ways you haven't even thought about how you're going to cultivate your community. What does your community need help with that's potentially, like, hopefully related to your cause, but in a way that maybe you haven't even thought of up until now? And so we need to give ourselves a little bit of time and space as these decisions are needing to, and all as information and as honestly the spread of the virus is growing exponentially. So really important. We're encouraging you to pause. We're encouraging you to look at your timelines to adjust. And we're encouraging you to think about shifting from tactics and event production to how are you going to steward and serve your community of people that care about the same thing you do. The last question we're getting a lot is, what should we project for revenue? And quite honestly, we don't know yet. We can't act, and it kind of supports what I was just saying. We need to allow ourselves some time to make decisions on revenue projections and adjustments to those. We believe there's going to be some serious cutting and some big shifts in our revenue projections of what the social impact sector has been planning for, as well as the nonprofit peer-to-peer fundraising space. And right now we really need to take a pause to see what those are before we can make those adjustments in the budgets and the revenue projections that all of you are needing to make.
Yeah, most of you in the charitable sector probably have heard time and time again that giving is proportionate to GDP. So if we're going into a period of contraction, we're certainly in a period of severe distress right now, it means the overall giving pool is going to go down. And wherever you are in that pyramid, whether you're relying on endowments or whether you're relying on bequests or you're at the grassroots level, that's going to get impacted. So we're not giving any specific revenue guidance this week. We're going to start to retool projections next week. And as we talk, it's the solstice today. So it's March 19th. If you're listening to this later, we'll probably start to publish more specific projections next week. But here's the good news. If you're of a certain age, like the two of us are, you've lived through this a couple of times in 2002, in 2009. This is an incredibly trying time, and yet it's also a lesson for all of us on how much community matters. And we do predict a huge amount of engagement and activism and people wanting to come together and people wanting to support each other. And it's terrible it's around this, but long-term, we're really optimistic about impact, and we're optimistic about you and your role. It's going to be tough, though, in the next few quarters. That is for sure.
Yeah, we literally are living in a peer-to-peer world. We are a communal species, and we need to connect person to person, passion to passion, one to one, more than anything right now. And that's the opportunity sitting in cultivating community, is how do we really serve each other one human at a time. And as we convene and as we show up vulnerably, authentically, saying, I don't know, and creating a pause so that we can make more prudent decisions for our businesses and for our sectors that we lead, we'll have more information as the days unfold. As conscious leaders, it's our opportunity to be present, to be here, to not be sped up, so that we can literally hear the information that's coming in, discern what lands and what's true for ourselves and our businesses and the teams we lead, and then clearly and calmly communicate direction, delegation, and support to the people that we lead. Doing that in a way that is real, it is truthful, it is authentic, and powerful right now more than ever. So we're here for you. We would love to help. If you have other questions, please don't hesitate to send them our way. You can do that at Plenty of Corona Care on our Facebook page, or you can email us at Jennifer and Jeff at plentyconsulting.com. We're happy to take your questions and would love to support you in this time of incredible uncertainty and change.
Thanks so much for watching, and more advice to come. We're here for you. Take good care. Be safe.
Bye.